The posts have been drawn, and now the game planning and handicapping is in full swing. You'll hear reactions from connections on their starting spots. We'll be taking a look at the Breeders' Cup Classic favorites' final work before fanning down to Southern California. And Gary Stevens amazed the sporting world last year in the Breeders' Cup. And that will be the case, win or lose this season, as we'll have a sneak peek at Gary Stevens' A Reckoning, as the pursuit is back on.
Skywalker is still there, carrying a huge upset looming here, and they're coming down to the finish, and it is pleasantly perfect.
Raven Pass and Frankie Dettori have won the Classic.
Yata, what a performance, one we'll never forget.
Brought to you by Fasig-Tipton, home of North America's first thoroughbred auction company. Fasig-Tipton, get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, the best online wagering experience in racing. Visit TwinSpires.com to sign up today. Another picture-perfect morning here at Santa Anita Park. Plenty of activity. Gary Stevens on horseback, that's the P, doing it for Big Tom Proctor. Up at Golden Gate Fields in the Bay Area, Shared Belief working out 52 and change before coming down here to Southern California. We'll be taking a look at that workout and also hopefully get a chance to hear from Jerry Hollendorf immediately following the work just about an hour ago up in Albany, California. Well, the 13 fields have been drawn for Breeders' Cup 31. Hopefully you've been doing your homework. We know that we have, and getting very excited about Breeders' Cup coming up on Friday and Saturday here at the home of the Breeders' Cup for the third consecutive year, Santa Anita Park, joined by my co-host Richard Migliori. And Richie, we see fast workouts, we see slow workouts. When we're talking about these works, especially the fast ones, are you okay with seeing some of these horses working as quickly as they have this week?
It's not my personal preference. I would prefer to see a horse have his major or faster workout 2 out from the race and then come back with an easier work, much like Untappable did. She had a real serious work, and then she came back with a real nice slow maintenance work. I just want to see some gas left in the tank, and I know we had some works over the past few days that were very fast. I can forgive one of them for sure because the horse was doing it that easy, and that would be Fast Anna.
Fast Anna, and from what we've heard from Carlo Vaccarezza, too, with little Alexis, 45 and change, he's still not convinced that she went that fast based on the way that she was looking on the track.
Yeah, she didn't. Another one that didn't look like she was going that fast. She had a very, very strong gallop out there. She worked a half, wound up going out 7/8 and 27, but by all accounts, she ate up, and that's always a good sign, particularly with fillies. After they kind of gone to the well a little bit, sometimes they'll back out of the feed tub. I like that sign that she's eating.
Well, the field of 14 for the Breeders' Cup Classic was drawn in the evening yesterday up in the Chandelier Room, and here is the field in case you somehow have missed it. Shared Belief installed as the 9-5 morning line favorite, leaving from post position number 6 with Mike Smith in the saddle.
And it's a good post, and he's a deserving favorite. My concern is that last race was such a hard race on him, being packed wide every step of the way. Is he going to regress from that? Is it going to back him off a little bit? He looks good training, but you never know until they're actually in the race.
The Pursuit Works brought to you by Darby Dan Farm, devoted to the horse, dedicated to our clients. Go to darbydan.com for more information. And here is the workout from just about an hour ago. 52, very slow for a horse that is very fast.
Yeah, but he had his serious work about 5 days ago. So this is a little bit old school, kind of, coming back a few days before the race to just do something, let him stretch his legs. You can see how easy he's going. His ears keep on flicking back and forth. They're not looking for anything fancy. They just want to make sure he's sharp and ready to go. And I think he is. Again, I'm just concerned about how hard the Awesome Again was on him.
7 days ago, he worked 3/4 of a mile in 1:14 and 2. He's worked as quickly recently as 1 minute and 3/5, so a very easy workout for the undefeated gelding by Candy Ride. Shared Belief, he'll be getting on a van and not too long from now, certainly once he cools out up there at Golden Gate, and then ship on down, which will take roughly about 6 hours.
So it's similar for horses like Belmont to Saratoga, just a little bit further.
Let's go live out onto the track where VE Day might be doing a little something based on where those stirrups are sitting, Richie.
Yeah, you can see the rider really pulled his stirrups up much shorter than yesterday, and that kind of clued me in. Well, he's going to do something, and Jimmy Jerkins is of that older school, just like his dad, Alan Jerkins, where they want to blow a horse out. They want to make sure that they're really sharp and have their mind tuned into their work. And Yesterday, first lap around, I didn't think VEDA looked great. I thought he looked much better the second time around, and he looks terrific this morning. Sometimes they got to kind of shake off the travel a little bit.
What is the mindset of Alan Jerkins and Jimmy Jerkins, of course, at this point in time in blowing a horse out this close to a race?
Well, I think they want to make sure their lungs are opened up. They want to make sure that their blood's kind of pumping, and it definitely tunes a horse in focus. You can see he really jumped into this work here. I mean, he's aggressive. The rider's trying to keep him as even as possible without letting him do too much. But this is a big, steady horse. He's not a horse that, to me, has a huge turn of foot, but he's relentless.
Just constantly grinding it out? Is that his...
Constantly grinding it out. If you see in the Travers, it looks like he can't get there, but he just keeps coming. See kind of a big lead change there, and he's staying in the bit. And I like everything I'm seeing from him. I don't know if he's good enough, but if Jimmy Jerkins is here, he's here for a reason.
Can he be effective over this track, given that grinding style?
It depends on the pace. He's going to need a big pace up front, and they're going to have to come back to him, and he'll keep coming.
When I think grinder, I think Drosselmeyer. He was the prototypical grinder, winning the Belmont Stakes and then going on and winning a year later the Breeders' Cup Classic at Churchill Downs. So that's VE Day for Madeline O'Brien, Jimmy Jerkins. Joe Talamo will take the call on Saturday, colt by English Channel, who was recently 6th in the Jockey Club Gold Cup. But as everybody has said, you can go ahead and forgive him for that, given what trouble he encountered with Wicked Strong. The Distaff division, let's take a look at the field. This is the Friday featured event. Untappable and Close Hatches lining right up next to each other in the starting gate.
Yeah, and to me, that's the race right there. They're both drawn outside. Untappable's done very good work from outside posts. It seems like she's always drawing outside. Close Hatches, I think this forces Rosario's hand, and he's going to let her run away from there. And depending on how IOTAPA breaks, she's going to be 1-2. If IOTAPA breaks well, she'll probably be stalking her. If not, Close Hatches could make the running.
Workers from yesterday here at Santa Anita Park. Bronzo working for the Dirt Mile. We'll see him later on in the show, much later on in the show. He went in 59-4. Footbridge for Owen. In the Classic, he's went a minute and 1/5. Indianapolis for the Sprint, 46 flat. MICO Margarita, Mr. Z, Lucky Dane, Palace, and Parranda as she worked for the Filly and Mare Turf for Jerry Hollendorfer, Private Zone. Regally Ready, he's actually entered in a stakes race this week. He'll be running in the Big Bear Stakes for Steve Asmussen, considering the fact that he is not able to get into the Turf Sprint. And also Unbridled's Note, Take Charge Indy, Sweet Reason, Stormy Lucy. A lot of horses on that list that will not be competing in the Breeders' Cup. IOTAPA, she's at the top of the list here for expected workers. She just worked, so we'll be getting that move for you in just a few moments. You've already seen Shared Belief with his nice, easy half-mile workout. Sunset Glow for Wesley Ward. VE Day, you just witnessed that live. And Vickers in Trouble, the Louisiana specialist, getting ready for the Dirt Mile for the Ramseys. He's expected to work out today as well. But as we now get ready for the Pursuit News Update, brought to you by OCD Pellets. Go to OCDPellets.com for more information. We go to Caton Bradar, and Caton, post position reactions. That's what we're all interested in following yesterday's draws.
Well, we will get to some reactions from some familiar connections so far as Breeders' Cup and Santa Anita Breeders' Cup is concerned, but also talk to one Chad Brown who's a bit relieved just to have his horses here in what will be known as the case of the cracked windshield. Grounding a plane yesterday in Kentucky and causing a chain reaction of postponements for flights carrying very important Breeders' Cup horses, among them Chad Brown's and Bill Mott's. They have arrived later than expected, but late last night, and Chad, one trainer who's just happy to be here.
It was nothing trying to ship out before the hurricane a couple years ago, so when you put in that perspective, it could be worse. You know, it is what it is. At least all the horses seem to get off the plane okay, and you know, horses are pretty resilient. They can handle a lot of stuff, and you know, the plane was late picking them up, but it's not like they were stuck on the plane all day. That wasn't the case. That would have been really bad. You know, for my horses, for as many as were running, I thought the draw went very well. I can't think of any single post position where I'm really disappointed. I guess Stephanie's Kitten, I'd rather her draw a little further inside, but you know, she lacks early speed, and she'll probably be able to drop in early and work out a good trip anyway. So all in all, I don't have any scary posts I'm afraid of.
Most of the time we overreact a little bit to draw. We get, you know, analyzing it and get to the point where we think that we know where we want to be and what's going to happen, and then nothing happens like that. But If I had to analyze it, I would say that we're okay. The 10 hole is okay for Mr. Z. I thought the filly, she's won from the 12 on a mile race at Keeneland, so I think she'll handle it. She's got great gate speed. And the other filly drew well, I thought, in the 5 hole.
The 4 hole is good for Marino because of the fact that he's going to have a straight shot to the rail or to the speed. I mean, he's going to be the speed him and Baffert's horse. Of course, I wish I would have drew outside of Baffert. It would have been even better, so I can stalk him. And but it ain't going to matter. We're going to go eyeball to eyeball. He's not going to get an easy lead like he has in the past. That's for sure. I guarantee you that. So it's going to be good because if he drew outside, as I was saying, if he drew outside, Marino's kind of a head case. He would have had a whole wall of horses that have to come through and use up to get past him. You know what I mean? So this way, if he breaks sharp, he's going to be right in position early. He's a horse that's got his problems in front of him and behind him and everything in between. It's been a hard management job to keep him going, but he's doing as good as he was before. So I mean, everything's good to go. You know, it'll be the 8th big dance 8 months in a row. He ain't missed. He hasn't missed a dance yet. He's hitting every biggest race in the history of the handicap division, just about. So I mean, we'll definitely freshen him for the next 5-year campaign after this.
Now, I mentioned that chain reaction of postponements, among them the plane from New York that was set to arrive today will arrive later today, that one including Tonalist, the classic contender. Then a shipment of Kentucky horses also will be coming later today, and a second charter flight that was due in later today will actually be pushed back. It'll arrive from Kentucky tomorrow, so we'll still see some late arrivals as much as Wednesday as we look ahead to the Breeders' Cup. A couple horses that should be en route shortly, among them Shared Belief. We just saw him breeze at Golden Gate. He'll be loaded up and headed out to Santa Anita. We'll see him in the flesh before too long. Hopefully tomorrow we'll get a good look at him here on the Santa Anita track. We're going to take a short time out, but when we return, we'll talk a little more about some of those classic contenders and distaffers, the ladies, closer look at the work of IOTAPA, and talk to John Sheriffs when we return.
To stay within the Breeders' Cup Classic division, mile and a quarter for $5 million. We showed you Shared Belief's workout earlier here on Pursuit, but we're going to take a look at some horses that we haven't had really a chance to see much of out on the track up until this morning. And we start, Richie, with Cigar Street for Jake Ballas and Rashard Lewis, NBA basketball player who's been here, seems like the entire week. He really loves this sport, and they've got a legitimate chance in the Breeders' Cup Classic because of the fact that Bill Mott, like we talked about Jimmy Jerkins, when these guys show up in these big races, they're not just here to get in and hit the buffet for free.
No, they come for a reason, not for the party. And this horse this will be his 3rd start off the layoff. And I tell you what, this is my kind of horse. This is an absolutely stunning animal, one of the most beautiful racehorses you're ever going to see. And it's been fun to see his owner hanging out with Angel Cordero. We get to talk with him, and I like when we have that kind of celebrity participation. It makes racing cool.
We have plenty of it. His horse crossing over from other sports, you know, to the horse racing world. We've got Rashard Lewis. We've got Wes Welker, who's got undrafted, as well as Michael Owen, one of the best European football players that we have had, and he's got Brown Panther in the Breeders' Cup Turf. So Cigar Street 12-1 for Bill Mott. 5 of 8 lifetime, lightly raced, but like I said, he's here, and he's here for a reason. Zevo, the number 8 horse, he's 15-1 with LEZCANO riding for Chad Brown. He is the most consistent horse in this group.
He shows up every time, and I mean, you can see him stepping out here, jogging like he's really happy to be at Santa Anita. He's a New York bred, so he probably likes the weather. You know, he knows the winter's settling in the metropolitan area back east, but you gotta love this horse. He just shows up every single time. And he's a sleeper to me. If there's a big pace and they come back, you know he's going to be going in the right direction. And he was bothered in the Jockey Club Gold Cup too, and still ran a really strong second. I like Zevo.
Is he a grinder like VE Day?
Yeah, I actually think he's got a little more turn of foot than VE Day, but I think the term grinder could fit for him as well.
So the New York Invaders in Zevo, New York bred, could be the year of the New York breds when you look at this 2014 Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, last week we actually had New York Showcase Day, but all the best New York breds were actually waiting for the Breeders' Cup, and that tells you a lot about the New York breeding program.
Let's get you out to Clocker's Corner, where Christina and Millie have a live look out on the course, one of the favorite for the Breeders' Cup Distaff out on the track right now.
Yeah, Scott, that's right. Closed Hatches is out on the track as we speak right now for the Hall of Famer Bill Mott. We'll take a look. Just a nice, easy jog so far for Closed Hatches. And as you heard from Kate and Bradar, a little bit of a difficulty in getting here, but the Mott horses have arrived, and she is out on the track once again today. Millie Ball joining me to discuss Closed Hatches, who we'll take a look at in just a second. She did draw outside Millie, post 11, but she does have that tactical speed and the ability to sit off other speed if she wants to.
You know, as good as she's been worrying the field in some of her past races, you just have to think back to the personal ensign. I think she's better, if given the choice, to have a target to run at. And I'm hoping with that outside post position, she'll be able to draft in and have that. She looks fantastic out there. I love to see a filly swishing her tail like that. It looks like she wants to put in a buck any second now. But one thing I wasn't keen about in the Spinster, and there's really been very little written about why she ran disappointingly in that race, is watching it back. Her stride looked shorter in that race than I'd seen it before, going down the backside. And she is coming back in 3 weeks. So that's the only concern to me. I have a huge amount of respect for her. She's a 5-time Grade 1 winner.
Yeah, you have to be concerned. Hopefully she didn't run a little bit too hard early in the season. She had such a dominating resume with the Grade 1s that she put up early this year, and then maybe coming downhill a little bit in the Spinster. Scott and I were discussing this earlier in terms of the Distaff. Horses that have competed in the Distaff one year come back the next year to try and win it. After coming off a loss the year prior, they're 1 for 33. It's a difficult task, and it just goes to show how hard it is to keep a horse at peak form year in, year out. That's why the Hall of Famers like Bill Mott and Richard Mandela are the ones that we look to in these sorts of situations. So perhaps Closed Hatches can rebound. Joel Rosario will be back aboard her for the Distaff this weekend. Really looking forward to it. Again, she draws that outside post. We'll step aside for a quick timeout here on Pursuit of the Cup. You'll want to stay tuned. More live looks out on the racetrack. We'll also hear from John Sadler with regard to IOTAPA and her final breeze this morning. We'll be right back. Stay tuned. You're watching Pursuit.
Brought to you by Phasic Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. No one has a longer pedigree, and TwinSpires.com. Wager on the go with TwinSpires mobile smartphone app. TwinSpires.com, where players win.
We've got a workout for you that happened just moments ago here at Santa Anita Park in one of the big contenders in the Longines Breeders' Cup Distaff, taking place on Friday. The distance, 1 mile and 1/8, not a straight up 8 furlong race as we're showing you here. IOTAPA, 6-1. She's going to be the buzz horse in this race, Richie, because she's a horse that possesses her early lick. She got a little unlucky last time out, and I think that looking for a sleeper, this is going to be the filly that a lot of people rely on Friday.
Well, I think a lot depends on how she breaks, and excuse me, speaking with Joe Talamo, he says she rocks in the gate. He can't get her to sit and set her feet. So she's constantly moving, and it's all a question of if she's moving in the right direction when the doors open. Last time she got unlucky. If she catches a flyer and breaks like she did in the Vanity, she could lead them on a merry chase. You know she's got the capability to run that huge effort, and if she gets loose, she could be tough.
Time, 1 minute and 3/5 for IOTAPA this morning, literally just moments ago here at Santa Anita Park. And you talk about that rocking. You've mentioned the rocking with Joe Talamo. Is there any way of, I don't want to say combating that because you don't want to fight a horse in the starting gate, but is there anything that Joe can do to help her?
Well, you know, they school her in the mornings, but the atmosphere is so different mornings to afternoons, and some horses are perfect in the morning. Then they get in that afternoon atmosphere with the excitement, and everybody's kind of amped up. California Chrome was doing that earlier in his career, and then he kind of got over it. The only thing Joe can do is be quiet, work with the gate crew. It's a great gate crew here at Santa Anita, and just be as still and calm as possible and hope for the best.
Another positive for her, second off the layoff, that's her thing. You look at her races, she's run some big races second off the layoff. For John Sadler, who is standing by with Kate and Bradar following this workout.
John, we just saw IOTAPA out on the track. Tell me what you saw, and did you get what you wanted?
Yeah, this is a little closer in for her. Usually she goes Monday, but we breezed her one day later, little couple reasons. And she went really 101, just looks like she was galloping. She's really in good shape, and we're really looking forward to seeing her run.
She ran so well in the Vanity. How confident are you she can come back to that type of a race?
Well, you know, it was a huge race for her. She ran a 3 on the rag sheets, by far her best race. She won the next Group 1 at Del Mar, and then she didn't break in the prep here, and she's got to have a free running style to run her best race, so hopefully she'll get a good start. That's what I'm looking for.
Let's talk about the juveniles. You got Daddy DT Juvenile Turf. He actually won from the inside in his stakes victory and draws post 2, so you had to be happy with that.
Very happy. He's a very talented horse. He won a stake in his second start. We tried him in the front runner because we wanted to have more options, and we're going back to the grass for the Breeders' Cup. But he's a lovely horse and had a super work here on the turf. He worked 12 around the dogs, so I'm very excited about his chances.
Tell me about Sweet Swap in the turf sprint, sticking to the grass and coming off a long layoff. Is he the type that can run that explosive race off so much time away?
He really can. He's a very nice horse. If you look at his record, I think he's 6 out of 12. He's had issues. He had to stop and start a few times, but he's a full brother to Sydney's Candy. He's a group winner down the hill, so had a good work on Sunday. So I think he'll run well.
Speaking of Candy, Candy Boy in the Classic, post 12, your thoughts?
Not a bad post. I want him to stalk. You know, I see him as a mid-pack runner in that kind of a race. So just want any kind of get a trip, get a position. It'd be a very tactical race with all the best horses and the best jockeys. But the draw's okay.
John, what happened in the Pennsylvania Derby with him last out?
It was kind of strange. He got pinched a little bit out of the start, and he was way back. I don't think he really grabbed the track there that great, so Joel is one not to force one. So he just let him stay back there, and unfortunately they went 48 in front, and it was the speed favoring track. But he really closed well, so you know we thought it was a good race for him considering things didn't go his way.
I talked to Joe Talamo, who's going to be aboard IOTAPA yesterday, about the home court advantage for jockeys. How much, if any, is there for a trainer, and particularly for horses who are stabled and trained here at Santa Anita?
It's hard to say. These are the best horses. Obviously, it's nice when you don't have to travel. I think the real home court advantage would be like in a downhill sprint, a very unique race. They don't run anywhere else in the world. Our jockeys know that race very well. And, you know, this is a good course, and grass is in great shape. So I think the best horses is your ticket.
Appreciate your time. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Let's start with IOTAPA, Richie, and the fact that you heard there from John that they went ahead and pushed this workout back. How much concern should we have with IOTAPA in that situation?
Well, I don't really think one day makes a huge difference, but I am curious as to why. He said for various reasons. I'm curious as to why he would push it back. And to be honest with you, I think the time was very acceptable for the work, but I didn't really like the way she went through the wire. I thought her gallop out wasn't very good. So I think this was a case of where time doesn't tell the whole tale. Visually, she wasn't as impressive to me.
John Sadler, 0 for 31 in the Breeders' Cup, and his Breeders' Cup last year was very average at best when you look at the starters that he saddled up. There's a live look at Toast of New York as he's here for Mr. Osborne, Jamie Spencer. It'll be his final ride in his great career, and that will take us to break. And when we come back, we have a boatload of international horses to take a look at, as well as the keys to the Cup.
Goldacova goes through at the rail, and look at the acceleration from Goldacova as she bursts forward. And what a brilliant filly is this! Goldacova in an awesome... And Goldacova's going to have to switch out a little. She does so, though. Coming with a late run, just enough humour. But Goldacova is just scintillating. Goldacova is something special. Goldacova's catching with each and every stride. Are we to see history this afternoon? Here's Bucko Boy late, but no, Goldacova, a true champion. 3 Breeders' Cup wins.
A true champion indeed. Time now for the international report. What a treat it was for all of us to watch Goldakova compete in the Breeders' Cup. 3 wins in the mile, and perhaps the family tradition carries on with Anadin, her full brother, entered in this year's Breeders' Cup mile. Welcome back to the Clocker set. Christina Blacker, Millie Ball, and joining us now for the first time on Pursuit this year is Fanny Salmon in from France. Fanny, wonderful to have you back.
It's always a pleasure to be back here watching wonderful horses and reliving memories like Goldakova.
You followed Goldakova her entire career. We haven't seen her on the racetrack since 2011. What has she been doing since she left competition?
Well, she's been busy adapting to her new life. She became a broodmare. She had her first foal in 2013, which was last year. This is her on a visit I paid her a couple of weeks ago. She had just been weaned from her second foal, the filly. This is the colt, the firstborn colt. He's a yearling. He just went to Freddie Head's yard. He's just been broken, and this is the windling filly. She's also out of Galileo, so her offsprings are full brothers and sisters, and we're going to have to wait a little bit longer to see her on the track.
What a family. Also, I mean, with that mare, Born Gold produced 5 Group 1 winners. So as we said, a real tie-in this year with regard to Goldakova and the mile and Anadin. Let's take a look at the mile contenders. Of course, the draw yesterday, so we know the field as it will line up for this year's Breeders' Cup mile. Here's a look. The morning line choice is Toronado, Hughes and Hannon teaming up there at 5-2. Anadin draws post number 9, and then you can see the rest. Obviously a good draw for him to the inside there at 8-1. Time now for the Pin Oak Stud Keys to the Cup, the pursuit of the Cup keys, brought to you by Pin Oak Stud. Go to pinoakstud.com for more information. Millie, we take a closer look here at Goldakova's full brother.
Indeed, Anadin, 5 starts in 2014. Yet to have a victory this year, but 2 seconds and a third, earnings of over $352,000, looking for his very first Grade 1 victory. And the Breeders' Cup Mile has been run here at Santa Anita 7 times. Fanny, he would be, Anadin, the only second male trained horse from Europe to win, the first being Last Tycoon. So there's a little bit of added pressure on top of being the full brother to Goldakova.
Well, when we talk about pressure, the good thing to know about Anadin is he doesn't know he's the full brother to such a legend, and he does not feel the pressure. He does not have her class. Here we have a look at him yesterday on the track, but he's got huge heart, and he always gives his best. He's a really, really brave horse who's always, even when he's not winning, he does perform, and he pulled some really, really good races, including in Royal Ascot. It may not look like it on paper. He was third to a tremendous Toronado, but that was a huge effort from him. Now, being here might be a plus. As we spoke to Freddie Head yesterday, he did see, and we can see him here, the horse is pulling a bit. Now, you have to understand, for all these European horses, their first trip here is quite a change. They're used to the quietness. Oh, that actually is today, so it means that he's still pulling a bit, but he seems focused. His rider, Philippe, was also riding Moonlight Cloud. He's very experienced at traveling foreign horses, and actually, I like the way he works. I think he's looking pretty good. Freddie Head was thinking that the fact that he's here will help him. He does not like to travel on the day. He's based in Chantilly, and when he goes to the races, he has to travel and doesn't like that. He actually ran better in Royal Ascot because he had arrived the day before, so that could be a plus for him.
Considering what he's been through with the travel, you have to love the energy that you see there in the gallop. Really spirited this morning out on the track.
Well, he does have Goldakova's spirit. He may not have her class. He's much nicer than his sister, and that's nice for the people who have to work with him.
Most notably, the trainer, Freddie Head. What a record he has in this race. Of course, the jockey aboard Miesk, the trainer of Goldakova, and now the trainer of Anadin. Let's hear from Freddie Head.
When he discovers new things, he's always a bit on his toes like that, and he worries a bit. But in a few days, it'll be over, and I think he'll be very well suited by being here all the time.
What do you make of his last run in the Prix La Forêt?
I think he was very, very unlucky. Couldn't get any daylight at the check, and still the last 100 yards he was finishing, running on, so he had a lot of horses underneath. So that's a good. It was a good prep. I was very happy with his year. He has run well in all those big races. And since August, the target was to come here and try and do as well as his sister.
Great to hear from Freddie Head there. Let's take a look at the competition that Anadin will face in this year's Breeders' Cup Mile. We begin with Toronado, the winner of the Queen Anne. Ladies, I was there at Royal Ascot to watch this horse. He is one of the more striking individuals that you will see in competition.
Absolutely, and I saw him on the track this morning. He's just drop dead gorgeous. There's no other way to describe him, and he's exactly what you'd like to see for a foreign horse coming to run in the mile. He's looking good. His coat looks good. He's powered. He's got full muscle, and he almost looks. I mean, he's got the sprinter's backside.
The only one concern I have about him, the only time he raced left-handed, it was the worst race of his career.
How about Mustajib, the winner of the Jersey Stakes at Ascot?
In the stirrups is Pat Smullen, who will be his race day jockey. His best performance was probably his third place in the Irish Guineas to the champion Kingsman. It will need some luck, but he's an improving 3-year-old. He probably will be a really good 4-year-old.
Caraconti, the Flaxman Holdings, what a record they have in this race. Caraconti comes in for French-based conditioner Jonathan Peace.
Yeah, talk about global connections. He's trained by an Englishman in France. He was bred in Japan, and he runs for a Greek heiress. He's a dual Group 1 winner. He's a classic winner. He won the French Guineas. Yeah, they ran him afterwards in the French Derby. That was too long for him. Now, the one thing was his below par performance in the Prix du Moulin, his last race. I'm not sure about that.
Veda for Orlando Royer Dupree. He knows something about coming over to the States with these horses.
And he knows something about giving fillies time to develop. I think her class is probably way above what her past performance show. She ran a huge race in her last time out, a Group 2. She was beaten by Solo, who's also trained by Freddie Head for the Wertheimer family. He's probably a better miler than Anodin and is going to Hong Kong. She also finished second into the French Oaks winner, Avenir Certain. She's a really smart filly, and she gets the weight allowance, which is always good.
Last time we saw Alain Royer Dupree bring a horse over here, it was Flotilla. He won the Juvenile Fillies Turf with her. And it's good to see Christophe Soumillon recontracted as first stable jockey for the Aga Khan. The Aga Khan, who's had 2 wins with Kalanisi and Lashkari.
In terms of the Euros, we continue the international report. We go now to the turf sprint division. Casper Netcher, an interesting horse that we'll see this year, Millie. And these horses that are taking on the hill course for the very first time. Casper Netcher, however, not coming to the U.S. to run for the first time.
No, last time we saw him 2011 in the juvenile turf. He finished 8th, beaten 6 lengths for trainer Alan McCabe. Now, he raced through the following season, winning the Greenham Stakes, and was retired to stud at Morriston Latin Stud in County Kildare to cover mares in 2013, but after getting only 3 of 55 mares scanned in full, he was then returned to the racecourse to a different trainer, David Simcock, who's becoming a household name not only nationally but internationally as well. And he won the Nearctic Stakes on October 19th. He was taken back to Amsterdam. That was because of an USDA regulation swab that he needed that he hadn't had in order to come here to America. So literally flew from Canada to Amsterdam, did a U-turn, got back on a plane, and arrived here back in California to enter the race 13 days later in the Breeders' Cup Turf
He might be the only one with a worse travel story than the Chad Brown horses.
Yes, indeed.
The frequent flyer is Casper Netcher. That's your international report for today. I want to thank Millie and Fanny for joining us here and bringing you all those great news and notes. We'll step aside for another break here on Pursuit of the Cup. Stay tuned. Much more upcoming. We dive closer into the 2-year-old divisions, take a look at the juveniles and the juvenile fillies, and then we look at Gary Stevens. He's back in the Breeders' Cup after a season to remember in 2013.
Beholder is now clear by 4 with a 16th to go. Beholder putting on a memorable performance under Gary Stevens. Beholder never gave them a chance in the distaff. Mucho Macho Man is full out now on the outside. Declaration of war will take charge. Mucho Macho Man just keeps on finding on the lead. Will take charge. A late run.
The icing on the cake for a comeback for the ages for Gary Stevens, winning a Preakness, then on to win a Distaff and a Breeders' Cup Classic, the one race that was missing from his Hall of Fame career. But don't call it a comeback this year because we saw him do it last year, a year ago. But coming into 2014, Gary Stevens, he's a little bionic with that full knee replacement. Here's a quick peek at what you will see tomorrow here on Pursuit. Gary Stevens, A Reckoning.
I knew that the day was going to come, and I said it when the comeback started. There's going to be a day that these knees are going to shout no. I need a break. I'm not going to announce a retirement. I'm going to take some time off and let the knees cool out.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
And I knew it was going to be sudden when it happened.
Full 12-minute version of Gary Stevens' A Reckoning tomorrow here on Pursuit. We are really looking forward to this, and more importantly, looking forward to seeing Gary Stevens back in the saddle in Breeders' Cup 31.
It's just incredible. I mean, I can't even imagine what it takes to get fit like he did last year and then to go through the surgery and come back again. But you know what? Anybody can do it. Gary Stevens can do it.
Well, he'll be riding Civilier 12-1 on the morning line for Chad Browns and Marty Schwartz as we take a look at the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Filly Turf at a Mile. Sunset Glow, 7-2 morning line favorite. The globetrotting daughter of Exchange Rate. Second in the Grade 3 Albany at Ascot behind Cursory Glance, the best 2-year-old filly in Europe. She followed that up with a couple of graded stakes victories down at Del Mar. Wesley Ward 0-for-16 though with his Breeders' Cup starters.
Well, he's got it down going over to England and winning races, or Europe I should say, but this filly will be her 5th start at a different track out of 6 starts.
Think about Wesley too, traveling over Top Hat and Tails at Ascot. Found out yesterday he's not coming to the Breeders' Cup. He's staying back home in Florida.
Well, that surprises me. But maybe he thinks that he's got to change his luck because he hasn't won a Breeders' Cup yet. Maybe he thinks this is the way to do it.
Blake Heap, he's capable. We know he does such a great job for Wesley and the horses that he sends his way. So regardless of where Wesley is at, his horses will be bet. The Juvenile Fillies, the 14 Hands Winery Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies, Grade 1 at a mile and 1/16. Angela Renee installed as the morning line favorite at odds of 3-1. But we're going to take a look at Wonder Gal, the number 10 horse for Leah Giramati in a workout. She was second in the Grade 1 Frazette that a lot of folks are not getting overly excited about as far as moving forward out of a race that was over a sloppy course and produced a very slow buyer number for By the Moon.
Yeah, it was a slow buyer number, but I think there are mitigating factors with this. And the fact that she was running into the slop, she really never got out in the clear, and the outside was definitely the place she wanted to be. You see the rider kind of shakes her up, but she's more of a kind of a big striding filly, not a lot of turn of foot. I think she showed that she handles this surface, and if she gets pace, she'll be going in the right direction at the finish.
She broke her maiden by 14.5 in her debut against Stakes Company of the New York bred variety. There we are talking about another New York bred. Danette, number 3 post position for the Juvenile Fillies. Here she is working out this morning, 1:02 the time for the daughter of Curlin, and she's still a maiden, Richie. She did finish 3rd, though, against Grade 1 Company in the Chandelier Stakes.
Yeah, I tell you, she's got a nice way of going. You can see, I believe that's Kent DeZormo aboard, just kind of sitting chilly. I can't imagine how cool it must be to ride a horse for your brother in a race like the Breeders' Cup.
And speaking of Kent and, the comeback for Gary, the comeback for Kent, too, after being struck in the chest, one of the most violent pieces of video that you will ever see, and he got back in the saddle on Sunday, just adding to the amazement of these athletes as far as jockeys in the sporting world.
I give him all the credit in the world, and it was a very scary situation, and he came back in a very, very short period of time. I think it speaks to just their general overall fitness and health, and also their mental toughness. They don't want to miss these big days, and they're going to do whatever it takes to climb back in the saddle. You think about Rajiv Miraj. He basically shattered his forearm and was trying to make it back for Breeders' Cup. These guys don't get paid unless they play.
If there was a way that Rajiv could ride, he would be here riding horses like Artemis Agritera and Main Sequence. There's no doubt about it. When they can't, they can't. That's the bottom line. Yep. Well, Kent can, and he's riding for his brother Keith, and he swung by Clocker's Corner to speak with Kate and Bradar following the workout on Danette.
Kent just got off at Danette. Tell me about the breeze.
Well, it was incredible. She was just, she took me around the racetrack, eager, and her speed was effortless, so I was really thrilled with the exercise.
We were talking about Posta just a minute ago. She draws toward the inside, and you said that's good for her. Why?
Well, she's not going to be involved with the pace, so I'm already where I try to get to the fence. I'm thrilled with the 3-hole.
Now you have 5 lengths to make up off Angela Renee. She ran well, an improving race last time, but how do you make up the 5 lengths? How do you feel she'll be able to get on even terms with the top?
Simply put, just a fluid trip. I mean, for 7/8 of a mile, I was blocked and in behind horses and having to make her wait. I had horse to progress and maybe sneak up and get closer, but I wasn't allowed to. I had to deal. I was, playing the cards that she was dealt. So hopefully she'll just get to creep without any abbreviations in getting closer to where that burst of speed that she gave me in the last start around the quarter pole, I'll already be heads up with those horses that were leading the freight turning for home, and they'll have to deal with her if she gets a fluid trip.
A couple other horses you ride also for your brother Keith, Marchman and Texas Red. Your thoughts on them?
Marchman's going to have to run the race of his life. He's earned $500,000, so he didn't do that. He did it the hard way. He earned it, so he can get it done. But Texas Red, I think, completely missed the start by at least 5 lengths. Got beat 5 lengths. There you have it.
Real quick, Kent, at this stage of the game, to be here, to be riding, and in particular to be riding for your brother, what does that mean?
Well, one, it's great to see you with my own eyes. I'm glad I'm here, standing about, and being able to talk to the fans as well as yourself, Caton. But while I'll be an emotional wreck if I can win one for my brother. That's the God's honest truth.
Safe trip.
Thank you.
Get to Sormo, a new Manson showing back up here in Southern California. He's taken the Colony by storm yet again, picking up where he left off some years ago. All right, we'll come back here on Pursuit as we are winding down for this Tuesday edition. And when we come back, we'll take a look at the Turf and Filly and Mare Turf divisions.
Brought to you by Fasig-Tipton, an all-time great place to buy all-time great racehorses. Get in the game. And TwinSpires.com, your home for online wagering. Visit TwinSpires.com and join today for a $100 sign-up bonus.
The $3 million Longines Breeders' Cup Turf. It will go as race number 9 on Saturday, 1.5 miles on the grass course. Flintshire is the morning line choice at a lukewarm 7-2. Christina and Millie back with you here at Clocker's Corner. We'll talk more about some of the Euros in here, Millie, and best that we do so as the Euros hold an 18-13 advantage over the Americans in this race. We begin with Telescope Highclere Racing, looking to win their first Breeders' Cup. Sir Michael Stout, he's already won this race 4 times.
He has an unbelievable record here at the Breeders' Cup. But Telescope was 3rd in the Juddmonte International behind Australia and the Grey Gatsby, 2 exceptional distance horses back there in Europe. He seems to be handling everything very well. Good-looking son of Galileo. He's out of Darsham Valut and bred in Ireland. Flintshire, this horse went out also this morning. Flintshire going out at 8 o'clock on the main track, whereas we saw Telescope, he exercised on the turf course. But Flintshire is coming in here off that 2nd place finish in the Arc de Triomphe. If he'd won it, you'd have to throw him out because there's never been an Arc winner come out and win a Breeders' Cup race. But the fact that he ran so well and really, truly the first time he got the ground he needed on Arc Day. He loves to hear his feet on the ground, and he'll get the firm turf course here in California. But Khalid Abdullah looking for a victory here. He won in 1992. Do you remember that race, Jolifa? She was 3rd in the Breeders' Cup Classic. That was an unbelievable race with the same connections, Khalid Abdullah and Andre Favre. One that's always stuck in my heart, but Flintshire, very good chance in the turf.
We don't often get the Arc also rans here, so it's pretty incredible that we have Flintshire. They'll have to take on the defending champ in Magician, and the ladies, Scott, will have to take on the defending champ in Dank.
But is she the same filly that we saw last year, Richie? Because last year's form is much better than what she's coming into this year's renewal of the Breeders' Cup Filly and Mare Turf.
Yeah, she had a real campaign last year. She really hasn't even campaigned this year. 1 start in Dubai, 1 start in England. And I think the difference, though, is she gets Lasix. She looks tremendous. Her flesh is good. Her coat is good. And I was speaking with Kieran Fallon the other day, and he seems to have his finger on the pulse of European racing. He thinks she's going to be the Dank she was last year. That's good enough for me. I think he's got a great opinion. And from what I see physically from her, I think we're going to see Dank's A-game.
She looks a lot like last year. She was one of the horses that's continued to stand out every single time that we saw her out on the race course in Breeders' Cup week for Breeders' Cup 30. We'll take another break here on Pursuit. When we come back, another visit to the Breeders' Cup Social Circle, and we'll be taking a look at a workout from yesterday from a invader from South America for the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile.
Welcome back to Santa Anita on a surprisingly quiet morning in the social circle. Not a lot of tweeting going on, but yesterday this was retweeted several times about Tonalist getting post position 11 and reflecting on the fact that it worked for him in the Belmont Stakes. No problem, fans. Been there, done that. Then Hardest Core on his way. Thanks to Joe Clancy for retweeting this photograph of him heading to the airport. We will hope to get a look at him tomorrow in the flesh. And then Barry Weisbord was tempting us all bright and early this morning with this on Twitter. The push on the crepes. They look awfully good to me from where I'm standing, but by the time we get off the air, they're already done with breakfast. A hashtag that was near trending, hashtag BC jockey changes. It's kind of a little game. For instance, Bill Belichick on Patriots Rule, Willy Wonka on Golden Ticket, Mother Teresa on Prayer for Relief. You get the picture, Scott. In fact, I think either one of us could ride Work All Week.
Yeah, I think we could. Any one of us from here at HRTV. Andrew Luck also supposed to ride Indianapolis, Miss Serendipity with Kate Beckinsale. I mean, the list goes on and on.
I like Mother Teresa. That's a good one.
Here's a look at the Grade 1 Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. Golden Sense draws the rail 6-5. Morning line favorite looking to defend his title, this time for Leandro Mora. But we go back to yesterday as our works continue to be brought to you by Darby Dan Farm. Bronzo, the Chilean import, working quickly, 59-4.
Yeah, it looks great. He got a big, long stride, puts his head way out and kind of down. And I mean, I don't know what he's been running against over there. He certainly looks good here training. Everybody's going to have their running shoes on. When Golden Sense drew post 1, I just think he made him a single on anybody's monthly tickets. Yeah, I don't see how he's going to lose from post 1 unless he's very unlucky.
What about this action we're seeing right now late in stretch?
Yeah, he didn't change leads, and, you know, I always like to see horses change leads. The rider's getting after him. More impressive around the turn when he was in hand, and he seemed to come apart a little bit late in the work.
Jorge Inda conditions for Don Alberto stable. Luis Torres takes the call. Caton hit it on the head. Work all week. We're here all week long for Breeders' Cup 31. We don't do 3 days and take off. For Richard Migliori, I'm Scott Hazelton. Fanny, Christina, Millie, and Caton. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. Eastern.